representative from the African Union, Mr. Fermin Hussein Noure, representative from the UNICEF Eastern and Southern African Regional Office, Ms. Joy Nafungo, Senior Program Officer, VP the IDRC, Mr. Salim Sal, Senior Program Coordinator at the UNESCO International Institute for Capacity Building in Africa, esteemed directors and representatives from the Ministry of Education, UNESCO, ICFA colleagues, KIX African team, good morning to you all, and I would like to sincerely thank you on behalf of the UNESCO ICFA and the KIX team for attending this meeting. This meeting is organized under the KIX team, including the Ministry of Education in Ethiopia, the UNESCO International Institute for Capacity Building in Africa, which is ICFA, the African Union Pan-African Institute of Education for Development, the UNICEF Eastern and Southern African Regional Office, and the Knowledge and Innovation Exchange, which is called KIX Africa 19 Hub project, is established through the Global Partnership for Education called KP, and it's funded from the International Development and Research Center, the IDRC. And the purpose of this project is to collect, generate, exchange, and facilitate the effective use of data, knowledge, and innovation for education policy formulation and implementation. And this is a project that is implemented in 19 local countries that is coordinated mainly by ICFA, and it also includes Ethiopia. And this very important meeting is therefore organized under this project, and to have a dialogue on the national education program, the progress, the priorities, and gaps in the education system in Ethiopia, mainly with emphasis on data. And in this one-day meeting, we anticipated to map and synthesize the existing knowledge, promising practices and priorities at the national level, so as to inform and strengthen the KIX project within Ethiopia and across the region. And this meeting will also create a platform to ensure lesson and knowledge and lessons learned, so as to support the policy dialogue and implementation at the national level, and also to define priorities as well as to address the policy challenges through research and scale up of the innovations during the implementation of the hubs. And details of the project will be presented shortly, so I will just briefly take you to the agenda for some housekeeping purposes. And as you see the agenda on your desk, it's a one-day meeting, and we already started the registration and the welcoming and also briefing the objective of the meeting. And we will have also as an icebreaker. I know most of you are from the same institutions, and we also know that for the sake of our online guests and for the sake of few colleagues here, we will have an introduction to each other, and then we go directly to the remarks from the UNESCO ICFA, the UN UNICEF partners, and the GP IDRC partners, and as well as from the NATCOM, UNESCO NATCOM in Ethiopia and the ministry. And then we'll break 40 at 10:30. Hopefully, we'll keep the time. And while we are going down to the tea break, we will have a group picture, and after Daniel, our photographer will lead us to the place. And then when we come back at 11, for about 1 hour and a half, we'll have a presentation on the translating research into policy and practice, and the successes, the challenges, and the key lessons on the area under the 4 thematic sessions. That's education planning, school improvement, early childhood care and education, and educational management information system. And we have 4 presenters. And then we go directly to the panel discussion on how the KIX platform and knowledge exchange can be accelerated or progressed or implemented in Ethiopia, and also what knowledge and scale-up innovations can Ethiopia contribute for the hub itself, that is for the regional platform. And we'll have also discussion, and we'll break for lunch at 1:30 and for 1 hour. And then when we come back, we have somehow very important report that will strengthen the project at the national level, and then we'll have a call for action. And at 5, we'll have a closing remark and a departure. I hope we're going to have a very fruitful day, and I invite Servitacho for introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Yersana. Now, as we know, many of us from the Ministry of Education, we know each other, that there are some individuals or representatives from institutions in person as well as in the virtual. So let us introduce ourselves. I start from.
Morning, everyone. My name is Joanna.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. My name is
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is from Community Resource Mobilization My name is Good morning, everyone. This is subscription for the University of Education. Morning, everyone. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Rita, for coming.
And are doing some past practice.
Can you introduce yourself? Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I am a second professor of education.
Well, thank you everyone again. Now, as per our schedule. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Good morning, all. I'm Hundesa Special for the Capacity Monitoring Evaluation Officer for KIX Africa 19 Hub. Practice in person.
Thank you. Would you? I do this.
Good morning, everyone, and my name is Salim. I have worked with many of you, and it's really nice to see you again. And also, I know you, some of you by name, and it's good to connect them with the person. So welcome and thank you very much really for coming today. And we know that this season is the wedding season, a festive season, and I know that most of you compromise from that. We really appreciate for you being with us today, and thank you very much.
My name is Daniel.
Yes. You know, many of you. Person, I'm Getachew from the Ministry of Education, Inclined Director, Senior Resource Mobilization Expert, plus the education in emergency, and also the refugee education for 5%. Thank you for coming again. Now, as the schedule, let us proceed to again the floor to Dr. Yevsa.
Thank you very much. And now I call upon Mr. Sarkisat, a Senior Program Coordinator to the UNESCO for this and also briefing about the program. Thank you.
Salam. Ado Getachew at Masu, representative of the Director for Planning and Resource Mobilization of Ethiopia Ministry of Education. Ado Yohanes Mugaso, Director General of School Improvement Progress at the Ministry of Education, will be joining us online. Ado Sefsibe Lema, Director of the Education Management Information System, EMIS of the Ministry of Education. Dr. Johannes Benti, Chairman of Ethiopian Teachers Association. Dr. Bezawit Girma, Secretary General of the Ethiopian National Commission for UNESCO. Mr. Jadi Lukman, Policy Officer of the Education Management Information System of the AUC IPET. Mr. Firmin Hussein Remy, representing the UNICEF Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Office, UNICEF SRO. Ms. Joy Nafungo, Senior Program Officer at GPE IURC. Dr. Victoria Sakie Kanobe, Senior Project Coordinator at IGBA and focal point of the KIX Africa 19. Dr. Jerusalem Azmarel, Project Officer at UNESCO IGBA. Dear KIX Africa, yes, Africa 19 members, dear fellow representative of IGBA, representative of the Ministry of Education, IGBA, UNICEF SRO, AU, KIX Hubs, dear participants, distinguished guests, all protocol observers, good morning. Salam. On behalf of Dr. Yumiko Yekozeki, Director of UNESCO IGBA, and also Director of the Liaison Office, who would like to attend this ceremony, but due to some commitments, she could not make it. She has told us to represent her. On her behalf, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to all of you. So thank you very much. All the more, as Jerusalem said earlier, it is the wedding season. So I thank you all for having traveled all the way from Addis to Adama. UNESCO IGBA joins the Ethiopian Ministry of Education in warmly welcoming you to this important dialogues on the priorities, progress, and remaining gaps in Ethiopia's national education system. It is an honor to witness this gathering of thought leaders and policy makers from the Ethiopian government and academic sector today. I do not doubt that the discussion will have an impact on education decision making in Ethiopia this year. It is my hope that this dialogue furthers our inquiry inquiry into the gap between policy and practice, and unveils evidence in Ethiopia on promising practices in the following 4 areas: education planning, early childhood care in education, education management information system, and school improvement plan. It is my hope that we synthesize good practices from Ethiopia to address the remaining issues in these 4 areas I have mentioned earlier. I am proud to say that this dialogue is the result of a strengthened partnership and close cooperation between the Ethiopian Ministry of Education and the Knowledge and Innovation Exchange KIX Africa 19 Hubs. Ladies and gentlemen, the KIX Hub is a project that is managed by 3 partners in Eastern Africa. My organization, UNESCO IPA, the UNICEF Eastern and Southern Africa Regional Office, UNICEF ISARO, and the African Union Pan-African Institute of Education for Development. Soon, you will hear from representatives from the UNICEF and the AU. Also, KIX Hub is internationally funded by the Global Partnership for Education and the International Development and Research Center, IDRC. The KIX Hub supports 18 countries in Eastern, Western, and Southern Africa in the pursuit of their national education goals, especially in the following 6 things. Number 1, improving teaching and learning. Number 2, strengthening learning assessment systems. Number 3, strengthening early childhood care and education. Number 4, achieving gender equality in and through education. Number 5, leaving no learner behind. And last but not least, meeting the daily challenge in education.
ዙም ላይ ነን ያሉን። ጀምረናል። ሚዩት ታረጋለህ።
It's okay now, because I'm too short, you have to lift the microphone. Thank you very much. I think all incidents are closed. Right? So let us proceed. Ladies and gentlemen, member countries like Ethiopia are encouraged to define priorities within these themes that align to their existing national education system. The Ethiopian Ministry of Education has selected among those 6 themes, has selected 4 themes, 4 areas of focus in this dialogue today. The first area of focus is education planning. The second one is early childhood care and education. The third one is education management information systems, EMIS, and the last one is school improvement plans. The KIX Hub provides countries like Ethiopia a platform for national stakeholders within a country and across countries in the region to share their experiences and good practices, but also their challenges and evidence, and learn from and with each other. The KIX Hub brings together ministries of education, local education groups, practitioners, experts, and researchers from 8 African countries and Anglophone countries. Ladies and gentlemen, this dialogue plays a big part in this goal. After our deliberations today, you will be invited to create a call to action, a document that captures the outcomes of your discussions, a document which contains your priorities, policy challenges, and knowledge and good practices in Ethiopia. This call to action should give direction to our work and identify areas for research and partnership. These partnerships and these dialogues are our gateway to creating African solutions to African issues using African knowledge. We do believe that Ethiopia and the other 17 countries of the KIX Hub already have the knowledge, innovations, and practices they need to boost their education system. What is now needed is a platform to share this knowledge with each other and deliberate and debate on key challenges and good practices. The strength and evolution of our education systems depends on our ability and willingness to do the following: to listen, to debate, to deliberate on evidence, to research and seek existing research and scale up good practices. Lastly, I would like to close my remarks by wishing you all fruitful discussions during this national dialogue and encouraging you to ask critical questions.
Thank you very much, Sanu, and I would like to recognize also the presence of Mr. Yemekalu, the Deputy Director of the National Examination in Ethiopia. Thank you for joining us today, and sorry for missing you in final opening. And thank you very much. And without any delay, I will give the floor for our representatives from the African Union. Mr. Jaji for a few remarks. And Mr. Jaji, the floor is yours, and thank you for joining us virtually.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. In Darachu, my name is Lokman Olawale Jaji. I am from the African Union Pan-African Institute for Education for Development, the African Union institution mandated to establish the continental education management information systems and constantly supporting our EU member states in strengthening their data management processes. All protocols duly observed. Good morning to everyone once again. And greetings also from the leadership of the African Union. Unfortunately, our colleagues who could have represented us physically are all out on mission since physical meetings have resumed fully at the African Union. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I would just like to say that it is my pleasure to be here, and it is our pleasure to be part of the KIX consortium supporting the EU member states in the area of data management and education planning. Just permit me to walk you through, for example, some of the strategies that we at the African Union are employing through the KIX in ensuring that education data management processes are strengthened. Number one, of course, is to ensure that we are part and parcel of influencing the processes of development of national sector plans. I remember I was part of the team that did the national EMIS assessment with the World Bank for Ethiopia. Some names in this meeting and some faces I think I do recognize where we did that assessment, and we noted that one of the biggest challenges facing the EMIS in Ethiopia was the issue of national school IDs. Was a big issue. I don't know, probably maybe during the course of the presentation, we would hear how far Ethiopia has actually gone in trying to mitigate that challenge of EMIS. Of course, our goal, of course, is also to build and strengthen education sector planning and policy implementation towards achievement of the SDG 4 and CESA in KIX member countries. Also, I think with that, I think sometimes last year we did have our communities of practice. We did have our member states also supporting the review of the norms and standards, the continental norms and standards on EMIS. And I must congratulate Ethiopia as well for participating heavily and also completing the assessment. That report is available. I think it will be published sometimes in February. And then it would be shared with the officers of the ministry. Also, moving forward, I would also like to say that the member states, the KIX member states, and of course in this case Ethiopia, are very, very integral to the establishment of a functional continental EMIS system. Because we want to answer the question, if national systems are not strengthened, then continental systems cannot work. So, and I think that also lends credence to the fact that we're having this national dialogue to assess the national education systems in Ethiopia, be it education planning, be it education financing, be it early childhood education. The goal here is to ensure that we understand, the ones wearing the shoe, and we want to understand where it hurts, as a form of data collection for us to be able to design our intervention and support better to you. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we'd also like to point out that the AU norms and standards is going to be is the Bible for which we support our AU member state, and of course in this case the KIX member countries as well in supporting their national data management systems. The result of that assessment is very useful for us in designing our interventions to you. Also, I would also like to mention that, of course, the 4 areas of focus that we did focus on around that EMIS is the existence of policy and legal frameworks, resource availability and utilization for your systems, statistical processes, and education information reporting. I think if I may also recall that we did visit some education institutions within Ethiopia. We visited the national exams body. We did visit the EMIS units, I think, the Ministry of Education, and we were trying to understand how all of these various institutions that are managing data within Ethiopia talk to themselves, what are the challenges, and of course, I cannot start going through most of the things that we found out, but at least it shows that there are gaps, of course, that need to be filled, and the essence of this dialogue is to also further understand what has been done at the national level, and then to see where we can come in to support this process, particularly the AU through the KIX. So we understand that the policy and legal framework and the resource availability and utilization are fundamental conditions that impact on the environment for which AMIS operate. We can talk about, we can have this dialogue 50 times a year, but if we do not outline, clearly and critically this policy and legal framework, as well as the money to properly implement those policies and frameworks, we're just going to be, on a treadmill, sweating but not going anywhere. Yeah, so that's one of those are two of the areas that we feel are quite critical to this process. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, we do understand that the overall goal of the KIX, the goal of what we are doing is to ensure that knowledge is generated, knowledge is shared, peer learning exists between the AU member states and particularly the KIX member countries, and we are on course to doing that to ensure that this knowledge generation and sharing does happen. I would also like to share that we are launching also, following the success of this one, national dialogues that are theme focused, that will be focused specifically on IMES, its financing, how data is generated, how data is utilized, who are the stakeholders at the national level that are involved in the business of education data management, its production, its use, and all of that. So it will not be the end of the dialogues. Of course, we would definitely reach out to this member, to you and to other KIX member countries to see how we could also learn using this this approach. I thank you very much for inviting the African Union. I thank you for listening, and of course, I will be with you all the way to listen to some of the things, because we're also here to learn some of the discussions and issues that will be raised. Thank you very much, and I'm over to you, Madam or Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jati. Namaste, and thank you for raising this, and it's really a good opportunity for Ethiopia also to learn from the other member states. Now I hand over for Mr. Fermin, representative for UNICEF Israel. Mr. Fermin.
Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all protocols observed. My name is Firime Dusengumuremyi. I'm here representing Eastern and Southern Africa, UNICEF, and I would like actually to share with you some of the key highlights. I would like first to start with the benefits of childhood education. Early childhood education is the key for a child's success in school and later in life. And of course, its ripple effects can benefit the education system and societies as well as countries' economic growth. It builds the skills needed in 21st century job market, skills that turn knowledge into know-how, and people in productive citizens. When children attend pre-primary school, their caregivers have the opportunity actually to participate in the workforce and increase their earnings. And pre-primary education provides the highest return on investment in all educational subsector, and increases the primary school intake, strengthens efficiency, and improves learning outcomes. And of course, much as pre-primary is the key and the foundation for everything, it is facing a lot of challenges because more than 175 million school-aged children are not enrolled in pre-primary education, which deepens inequalities within and across countries. And you can see that 22% of children are enrolled in pre-primary education in the low-income countries, compared to 86% in high-income countries. And of course, if we have the vision that by 2030, most of low-income countries will not be on track to achieve SDGs target 422, which concerns universalizing access to pre-primary education. In regard to access to early childhood education have been uneven because vulnerable children are disproportionately excluded from quality pre-primary education. Household income, the mother's education, and geographic locations are key factors that affect the children's attendance in early childhood centers and schools. And there is little contribution of funds among the challenges because less than 2% of the overall education budget is allocated to pre-primary education subsector, a small share of the government expenditure compared to primary, secondary, and tertiary education. Another challenge that the subsector is facing is actually sufficient number of qualified teachers because only half of the pre-primary teachers in low-income countries are trained. Only 5% of the pre-primary teachers globally work in low-income countries. And we're investing in pre-primary education, in early childhood education, good quality pre-primary education sets a strong foundation for learning and development. So that's why actually investing in pre-primary is very key, because the pre-primary education sets the stage for positive transformation in learning outcomes throughout a child's lifestyle. And for children affected by emergence and conflict, pre-primary education is seen as life-saving, as it helps develop the resilience to cope with the traumatic and stressful situations. Number two, EC also helps education systems to be more effective and more efficient, because the students equipped with the quality pre-primary education are better prepared for the transition to primary school and move more efficiently through the education system, which makes investing in quality early learning opportunities cost-effective, lessening the need for remedial efforts and resources to make up for learning losses. The third point is that great investment in economic growth of countries. So when you invest in actual education, you're actually having a great investment in economic growth for the countries. Because investing in actual education is cost-effective and promotes economic growth. Quality pre-primary education can reduce gaps that often put children with low social and economic status at disadvantage. And studies show that the returns of such investment are higher among poorer children, as EC serves as a stepping stone out of poverty and exclusion. And what's the situation of ECE situation in Isaro? In the Eastern and Southern African region, more than 20 million children do not attend pre-primary schools or ECE centers. The regional average spending on early childhood education as percentage of total education expenditure is less than 2%, which is far below 10% recommended benchmark. And there is also low access to waivers and inequalities, as also weak enabling environment, including lack of policies, financing, quality controls, and regulations are some of the major challenges that represent a critical opportunity to help children reach their full potential in life, in school, and work. As you can see on the graph below, if you look at the EC gross enrollment for ratio in pre-primary, both male and female, you compare Isaro, Sub-Saharan African, and the world, you can find out that Sub-Saharan African and Isaro are still low in terms of pre-primary enrollment. And given the COVID impact, because this subsector was also affected by COVID, so prior to COVID-19, little attention was being given to importance and benefits of childhood education. With the outbreak of the pandemic, the EC subsector is even more neglected due to disruption of learning and limited financing due to economic downtrends as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. And we are calling for safe reopening of ECE centers, because centers and schools providing ECE services should be among the first to be considered for reopening, given the role they serve in supporting children's learning and development at the most critical stage of human development, but also because they enable parents to return back to work. Number two, deciding to partially or fully reopen ECE centers should be guided by a risk-based approach to maximize educational, developmental, and health benefit for not only children, but also for teachers and communities. And also UNICEF is actively working with the government across ISARO to support their efforts in assessing and deciding when and how to open ECE schools and centers. And what is UNICEF support in ISARO in terms of ECE? So UNICEF ISARO has facilitated the diagnostic processes to assess the situation of ECE in 8 countries, including Angola, Ethiopia, Lesotho, Madagascar, Mozambique, Rwanda, South Sudan, and Zambia. And it has also worked with ministries of education in the region, development partners, private sector operators, international NGOs and ACOs to diagnose how enabling environment and different components of ECE systems need to be strengthened in order to deliver quality and equity ECE for all children. And when you go in depth of the works that UNICEF ISARO has done, you will see that it has led to increase the domestic financing for ECE in South Sudan, better articulation of ECE within education system, education sector plan, like in Mozambique, greater donor investment in ECE, including Zambia, where they have USAID and FZDO, in Lesotho, GPE, South Sudan, the World Bank. Also improved in country partnership with the World Bank in Rwanda, Mozambique, and South Sudan. And here are some actions to improve systems, which include some areas like Lesotho and Somalia. There is need for ECE curriculum development. In Zambia, child learning development standards. Ethiopia, Somalia, and Madagascar, need for national strategic plans. And in Mozambique, ECE workforce development. And of course, looking at that background and the challenges, we have some key recommendations that can actually drive ECE on the forefront. The first recommendation is actually strengthening the resilience of education systems, which includes to generate a comprehensive set of priorities for pre-primary education subsector, and taking action to strengthen the associated functions is central to building equitable education systems that will replace millions of children today on the path of fulfilling their potential. And of course, making ECE an integrated part of education systems, as well as preschool compulsory for children the year before entering primary school, and leveraging existing and new partnerships to increase the reach and influence of ECE systems, programs, policies, and services. Ladies and gentlemen, the second recommendation is actually improving education financing, which includes ensuring prioritization and efficiency in spending, and also building partnerships in the private sector to increase domestic resources for education and explore innovative financing solutions, and also allocate more funds for ECE, at least 10% of national education budget to pre-primary subsector, because in most of the countries they have less than 2. So UNICEF ISARO is advocating for 10% of national budget to be allocated for pre-primary, so that this subsector can also be supported appropriately. The third recommendation is actually school reopening and teacher support, which includes ensuring inclusive and participatory discussion with the ECE stakeholders to inform school reopening plans specific for ECE. Develop a contingency plan for continuity of learning if ECE centers are closed again. Also improve teachers' competencies to recognize and support the social and economic needs of all children. And you also need to provide teachers training and ongoing support to adapt the curriculum, lesson plans, teaching strategies, and children daily routines. The fourth recommendation is improving learning outcomes, which includes assess learning gaps with formative assessment and address them with appropriate remedial programs. And also focus on foundational learning from early stages to raise learning levels and address learning poverty. I think that's what I have for you. And thank you very much for carefully listening to this presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to contact me on my email or just give me a call or just ask questions that I can be able to respond to if you have any questions about my presentation. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fermin, for your comprehensive presentation and very important recommendations. I hope those recommendations will be also discussed later on in our sessions. And thank you very much. And without any further delay, I would like to call Ms. Joy for her remarks representing GP and IDRC. Ms. Joy, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much. Hello, colleagues. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. Yes? Okay, great. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. My name is Joanna Fungo, and I'm tuning in from Nairobi, Kenya. Apologies, I'm just joining now. I had some issues connecting, but I'm happy to join all of you. I really wish I was in Ethiopia with all of you, but again, thanks to technology, I'm glad to see everyone here. So I am a senior program officer with the International Development Research Center, and I'm based here in our regional office in Nairobi. And my role here is to present on behalf of GPE and IDRC and the KIX program. And I work very closely with the Africa 19 team, UNESCO, UNICEF, and AU team. So I'm going to just give some quick remarks and a brief overview of the GPE KIX program. So I don't know if my presentation is up. Thank you. We can move to the next slide. Thank you so much. So just a brief overview of what the Knowledge and Innovation Exchange Program is, although I'm sure some of you already know this, but I think it's just important for perhaps you to hear from the KIX program directly. So as you already know, KIX is a joint endeavor between IDRC and the Global Partnership for Education, and we call it the Innovation and the Knowledge and Innovation Exchange of and for 70 countries that are supported by the Global Partnership for Education. As you already know, the GPE supports it's now over 70 countries globally, and works very closely with the ministries of education, Ethiopia being one of the countries. So the purpose of KIX is to generate and mobilize evidence with the goal of strengthening member countries' education system. IDRC therefore continues to be delighted to work on KIX as a joint endeavor with the Global Partnership for Education. We have made a long-term commitment to research in areas of education and science, and KIX is the largest initiative within IDRC that directly supports education. So this past year, we have witnessed two things to which I would like to draw your attention. First, the critical importance for evidence and innovation to improve education access and quality, particularly as we strive to address, among other issues, gender equality and inclusivity. And then secondly, the unique opportunity that KIX offers, particularly to respond to Southern priorities and potentially fast track the evidence to policy process through consistent engagement with national policy actors like yourselves. If you can go to the next slide, please. So the next slide is a video. I'm just going to request Hundesa, I think, to play a video, just brief video about 1 minute long about what KIX is, just to give you a brief overview before I go into more information. Over to you, Hundesa, please. Sorry, I'm not able to hear anything from my side, so I don't know if the video has played yet.
Okay.
You can proceed. You can proceed.
Sorry,
yes, you can proceed. The video has
sorry,
just-
I can proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay, okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, so I'll just continue to the next slide. I don't know if we can put the slides up. Great. So just some brief information about what the Global Partnership for Education is, although I believe this is not really new information. So the Global Partnership for Education is the world's only partnership and fund that is entirely dedicated to education in developing countries. And what GPE does is to leverage global and national resources for education with the goal of enhancing access to quality education for children. GPE's vision is a quality education for every child. And of course, so is KIX's vision, is to support access, both access and quality education for children. And the mission of GPE is to mobilize partnerships, for example, the partnerships that we have in KIX, and also investments. And we look at KIX as an investment that will eventually transform education systems in developing countries with the ultimate goal of leaving no child behind. Next slide, please. Thank you. So what is IDRC? Perhaps for some of us, it's the first time hearing about the International Development Research Center. So IDRC is a Canadian Crown Corporation agency, and as part of Canadians' foreign affairs and development efforts, the International Development Research Center champions and funds research and innovation within and alongside developing regions to drive global change. And so IDRC's expertise in KIX, the reason why we are partnering with GPE on KIX, this expertise stems from IDRC's experience in funding and supporting high quality research in developing countries, also sharing knowledge with researchers and policymakers to inform local and global action. And lastly, to mobilize alliances to drive global positive change. And all this is coupled with IDRC's regional presence. Like I said, we have several offices globally, 2 offices in Africa, 1 in Nairobi and another one in Dakar, Senegal. So our presence and also our network and experience in scaling solutions make us a good partner in terms of implementing KIX globally. Next slide, please. Great, thank you. So just a brief overview of what KIX is. We officially launched in April 2019. So it's almost 3 years, will be 3 years in April since we began. And in terms of structure, we have 2 interconnected mechanisms, as you can see on the slide. The first one, we call it knowledge exchange. And how do we do knowledge exchange? Is we support 4 regional hubs. Africa 19 is one of the regional hubs to bring together education sector stakeholders from GPE member countries to identify common challenges and to share evidence and ideas. And at this event today and several other events that have been happening in other countries are an example of what we call knowledge exchange, knowledge sharing. So we have 2 KIX hubs in Africa. We have the Africa 19 hub, which Ethiopia belongs to, and then we have the Africa 21 hub that covers the Francophone region of Africa. And then we have other hubs. We have the one hub called LAC, the Latin America and the Caribbean hub. And then we also have the Europe, Asia, and the Pacific hub. So we have 4 hubs overall. And Africa 19 hub is one of the 4 hubs, and it has a membership of 18 countries. And also, then KIX also has a funding mechanism, and under the funding mechanism, we fund what we call global and regional projects that began in 2020. And the idea is that these projects help us to address cross-cutting issues for education system. Next slide, please. So you might not be able to see because of the small font, but I'll just briefly talk about this slide. So given the turbulent context of 2020 and 2021, getting KIX going has not been a straight linear process. But we are glad that we have witnessed progress towards the overall purpose of facilitating opportunities for countries to continue learning from one another, also to strengthen capacities and to generate evidence and innovation to improve education policy and practice. So as you can see on the map from afar, you'll see the 4 regional hubs in which partners from ministries of education and other stakeholders meet together for peer learning and exchange. At the 1-year mark, in 2020, about 2/3 of countries had already started engaging in the hubs as we rate it from a moderate to high level kind of engagement. We've also witnessed country representatives state that hubs have been relevant to their needs and that hubs have provided unique opportunities to exchange information and ideas, and that the resources that have been produced by hubs have been useful and have created space for knowledge and insights. So as we do this, we highly acknowledge and salute the creativity and commitment of our partners, especially the Africa 19 partners. We have UNESCO's ICBA institutes, we have UNICEF's regional office, and the African Union for continuously facilitating the hubs. We greatly admire the tenacity for country representatives who have been available, who have shown commitment to make the most of hubs, to participate in hubs, despite everything that has been happening. And we also acknowledge that most of this, actually, maybe 3/4 of this engagement has been happening online. And this is one of the very few physical engagements that we have seen so far. And we really appreciate your commitment and efforts. Next slide, please. So as I finalize, as of today, we have seen over 50 countries who have nominated national delegations to participate in hubs on an ongoing basis. And these national delegations bring their priorities and experiences into the regional knowledge sharing and bring insights from the hubs back into their countries, and also from countries into the hubs. Of course, without the participation of national delegations, we really cannot have the hubs. We cannot have such engagements. We also have seen that hubs have convened dozens of knowledge sharing and mobilization events and processes. So far, we have about 58 events globally, and we are still counting. Some have been intentionally small and targeted, while some have focused on the national delegations. Others have been big open webinars and conferences. For example, we have the Africa 21 Hub that hosted a roundtable of 5 countries to share the experiences and policies. We have the EAP that have convened their countries to discuss education policy and innovation. Of course, we also have the Africa 19 that have conducted communities of practice last year to discuss experiences and to share knowledge regarding different thematic areas. So hubs have also animated what we call multi-step processes. As I said, we have communities of practice, we have small groups, we have we have national representatives as a whole group. We have capacity strengthening activities as well. And so we also have seen several outputs that have been shared through hubs and beyond, also by other global projects and also regional projects. And overall, together, we have about 3,000 people from GPE countries that have participated in the hubs, and about 4,000 people globally. So the hubs have generated close to 100 knowledge products, and this, of course, includes videos and interviews and podcasts, and we hope that this continues across. There are also other indications that country representatives have found hubs useful. If I may just share one example shared by Africa 19. I remember that early in the pandemic, country representatives in Uganda shared some lessons from Botswana, picked up some lessons from Botswana regarding school reopening guidelines. These are just some of the few experiences that we have seen. If you can move to the next slide, please. So overall, as you can see on the slide, education priorities continue to come up through the hubs directly. And because of this, KIX also, at KIX, we look at what is emerging from the hubs, and then we have used this information to design what we call calls for proposals and funding across 53 countries. And as you can see, we are targeting projects across different thematic areas. And so far we have about 36 applied research projects. Like I mentioned earlier, IDRC, our focus is research, and we want to fund applied research to continue generating knowledge. The professional development of teachers has emerged as a top priority in each region. Of course, gender equality and inclusion issues is a cross-cutting area across our portfolio, but also is a central focus and also of the second largest cluster of the projects. Last year, we were also able to put up a special call on early learning, thanks to our partnership with the LEGO Foundation and also with GPE. Out of this, we funded 5 new projects that are starting this month. And so we continuously build solid evidence. We continue to contextually look at the realities of partner countries. And we're just not looking at conducting studies and presenting findings at the end, but we also want to continuously engage stakeholders who can use the knowledge and the capacity as they go along. And of course, we ride on your expertise, we ride on your experiences in their respective contexts, particularly in Ethiopia. We also acknowledge participation of ministries, ministry officials, of teachers, and of parents in KIX. And so we thought it would be most interesting for you to hear about, some specific examples from KIX. And I just want to convey my gratitude to Ethiopia, Ministry of Education, of course, in partnership with other stakeholders for convening you together. And we hope that the conversation today will be helpful in helping us identify priorities in Ethiopia, and also for us as KIX as a program to see what exactly we can continue working on within the Ethiopia context. Next slide, please. So this is it. Thank you so much, colleagues, and thank you for convening us. As I finalize, I would like to wish you very fruitful deliberations today. I hope to learn from all of you as I hand over back to the moderator of the session. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Joy and Asante Sana. Thank you for your introduction about GP, IDRC, and of course the project. We really appreciate also your time. So before I take back the floor for the House speakers, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our colleagues online, Marianne and others also. So I would like to give you the floor to introduce yourself briefly, Marianne.
Yes, hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning from the United States. I wish I was there with you right now in Addis. Hello to everyone. My name is Marianne Dreas Sheikha. I am the KIX Africa 19 team leader and management consultant, and I am working with other colleagues from UNESCO ICBA. So I just want to say I'm very grateful to see the room is full today, and I'm sure we're going to have great discussions and deliberations and debates, healthy debate as well, about what works and what doesn't work, what's working, what's not working in our education system. The KIX platform is perfect for dialogues like this. And we hope that today we promote the use of evidence and discussion and debate and research and decision-making. So that's all from me. I just wanted to thank you for being here. And I really echo Joy and Saliu and my other colleagues when I say that I wish you fruitful deliberations today. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with in your documented calls to action at the end of today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Who is there? I can see Victoria's name, but I think it's who is joining from Yvonne? Yes, Yvonne. Okay, is that Yvonne? Yvonne, good morning. And can you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Yvonne Boya. I work with KIX Africa 19 Hub. Up to December of last year, I was in the M&D department as the monitoring and evaluation consultant, and now transitioning to research. So as of now, I'm the research consultant for the KIX Africa 19 Hub. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm really looking forward to learning from you. And I just joined Marianne and Joy and the rest in wishing you fruitful deliberations today. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you, Yvonne. And we have our very instrumental person, Henok. If you are with us, I know you are with us. Henok.
Hello. Yes. Good morning, everyone. This is Henok. I'm the IT support for ICBA in facilitating such workshops. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Henok. And for the last 2 years, we really relied on him because of so many online meetings, as you recognize. And who else do we have online? Huh? Oh, okay. Alphaba, okay. Hello, Alphaba.
Yeah, good morning. Can you
Good
hear
morning.
me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Excuse me for my video. I just woke up. It's too early here. My name is from the Gambia. I am the KIX focal point for the country. I have been working with the KIX team since the inception, and it has been a very good journey during the lockdown. New innovation of exchanging ideas with the team, particularly with the IGBAC team and the colleagues around here. So we look forward to joining this meeting and learning a lot from you. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Alpha. And by the way, there are also colleagues who joined us at a very early morning. Some of them are writing. Marianne is behind 9 hours from us, and we really appreciate it. We also thank the technology who keeps us connected and also help us through the COVID season to implement many of, especially the KIX activities. And I think this is something we can also take as a lesson in this project. And now I will hand over the floor for Dr. Bezawi for a few remarks.
Good morning and greeting to all honorable guests that are here today at the KIX Dialogue on Ethiopian Research Education Programs and remaining priority for development. On behalf of UNESCO, IGBA, and the Ethiopian Ministry of Education, welcoming you to this important dialogue. UNESCO stands in solidarity with the Ethiopian government and civil society in their pursuit of their educational goal, in line with Sustainable Development Goal 4 of global education, training, scientific agenda. UNESCO provides global and regional leadership in education, strengthening education system worldwide, and responds to contemporary global challenge through education and gender equality, and underlining principle. Even in the recent, UNESCO has been working with the Ministry of Education to train teachers in digital learning as a part of a 3-year project to design, pilot and scale up technology enabling open school system. This encourage crisis resilience school system that have connect school-based and home-based learning and ensuring continuity and quality of learning during the pandemic and beyond. As my colleague Mr. Salu says, no learners should be left behind because of lack of resources in their school or at home. Ethiopia has made educational progress in recent years and has quite a few lessons to share with other countries in the region. This KIX Hub platform that you are all engaging in today is a place where you can share good experience and evidence and challenge with your contemporaries. I hope the presentation and the discussion today encourage you to consider embracing innovative approach and solution to persistent challenges in education access and quality, as well as new educational challenge arising from the pandemic, from the conflict, socio-economic inequalities. I hope we're gonna have a good discussion. So thank you all participants here. I wish all for full discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bezawit, and I call Mr. Getachew, who's representing the Planning Mobilization, Resource Mobilization Director of the Ministry, for his remarkable presentation. And all is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you on behalf of Mr. Elias, you know, all of you, the time is weekend. We may have many social issues, but it's a priority for this issue, and I would like to thank again for coming. By saying this, just I want to go a presentation on behalf of Mr. The presentation prior to which is what Ethiopia's education sector priorities and the recent outcomes in the thematic areas. You know, the 6 thematic areas, what we are talking about it. Yes. Yeah, the presentation outlines its priority programs, priorities in the thematic areas, achievements, challenges, and the key lessons what we learned. Yeah, as you know, for all of you, Ethiopia had been preparing and implementing education sector development program. So far, we have done the 5 sector plans. Now we are in the 6th education sector development plan. I'm talking about only the priorities of the SDGs. The first priority is system strengthening, governance, and accountability. The second priority area is values, that is national unity in diversity. The third one is quality enhancement and relevance to job market. And the fourth one is general education access, equity, and internal efficiency. And the fifth one is youth and adult non-formal education. The sixth, utilization of digital technology for education sector. And the last one that is on the list is quality assurance. Yeah, in each program, we set objectives, and there are many components in relation to that thematic areas. Only I select the thematic areas, the components which relate to the our thematic areas. Under this priority program, the first component is governance, accountability, and decentralization management for education staff. For each component, we set strategies, we set objectives. For each strategies, there is indicators, there is baseline, and there's targets within the appropriate implementation time period. These components are management of educational information system, mobilization, equitable allocation and use of resources, communication and research for educational development, and the fifth one is capacity development for improved management. These are the components under the priority programs, then systems, governance, and accountability. Yeah, program priorities are is quality enhancement and relevance to job market. To implement or to accomplish this priority program, there are components under this priority program, around the 4 components in relation to the thematic area. The first one is curriculum review, revising the curriculum, development, and implementation of this curriculum to get that priority or to implement that priority program. And the second component is expanding and strengthening science, technology, and innovation. The other component is what prepare students for job markets through provision of career and technical education program. This, as you can see, we revise the curriculum, we develop the curriculum, we implement the curriculum, then expanding that, strengthening. How do we implement that? Design the curriculum through expanding and strengthening the technology, innovation. So by creating that, we prepare students for job market. We have to create a citizen who involve what the socioeconomic needs or the demand of socioeconomic. We have to fulfill the manpower what the socioeconomic needs. And the last one, when we prepare students, our school should be transformed within the effective teaching learning centers. They should be. They have to fulfill the standard of the schools. By doing this, we can accomplish that program. Next. Yeah, the fourth priority program is general education, as access, equity, and internal efficiency. Within each level of education, our level of education, PrePrimary, primary, under primary, there is middle schools, what we call grade 7 and 7, and 8, secondary school, and a special support to prepare pastoral and study pastoral. We have to consider these areas, since there are disadvantages before. Next. Yeah, the priority program 5 is what youth and adult non-formal education. Under this, there are components. The first component is youth and adult skills education and training. The second one is women's participation in youth and adult skills education program. And the third one is this continuing education program, that is the ability and the distance one. The fourth one is short-term non-formal vocational skills training for youth and adults. The fifth one is what? Alternative education, which is for out-of-school children. We have to consider these children who are out of school. The last one is organizational structure for non-formal education at all levels. Next. Yeah, the sixth priority program is use of digital technology for education sector. Under this priority program, there are components. These components are use of digital technology for assessment and evaluation. We cannot achieve the goals or what we design without the support of these technologies. And the second is digital technology for online training for teachers and school leaders. We couldn't reach all teachers and leaders within our business as usual. We have to use all technologies to reach these teachers and leaders. The third one is use of data acquisition, processing, and management technologies in the education sector. How do we collect the data, the information? How do we process it? We have to implement or incorporate this technology to reach all the students who are across the nations. Next. The last priority program is what quality assurance. We have to assure the quality of learning outcomes, even the teachers and the leaders, even also the schools. Under this priority program, there are components. One is called inspection, we have to inspect whether the schools fulfill the standard of rules. And the second one is teacher and school leaders licensing and relicensing. I hope we will raise during the panel discussion. And the third one is assessment and examination system. These are the components of our priority program, what we are talking about. Yeah, achievement and challenges. As you know, currently we are in a challenging situation. Continuing or maintaining the education sector by itself is taken as an achievement. However, secondary education enrollment has gradually improved. We are talking about the implementation of the performance of this. The second we can take as achievement. Government budget allocation is improved from year to year. Next, this is not as a big achievement, but as I mentioned before, since the country is in a challenging situation, just continuing the system or the schooling system is taken as an achievement. Okay, next. These challenges, as you know, we face many natural and man-made challenges. You know, COVID, effect of COVID is a worldwide challenge. In Ethiopia, as a part of the world, we are facing this COVID pandemic. The other challenges internal conflict and drought. In this internal conflict, currently the situation, especially in the northern part, many of them you know, more than 2 million students are out of school, and more than 3,000 of the schools are destroyed totally and partially, and even they are looted. The other challenge is gender participation, less in upper grades. When you go at lower grade, it's a better situation. But in upper grades, the gender participation is less. And the other challenge is significant difference in enrollment across regions. You can imagine enrollment in Amhara and Afar country, even the drought-affected regions in Somalia and Oromia. You can imagine what will be the enrollment or the participation in these emergency-affected regions. And the other challenge is poor student learning achievement. Teachers licensing exam result is this is challenge what we face. Next. What we learned from this, as we know, we are suffering with COVID pandemic. Within this or during COVID, we try to maintain the sector, the schooling system, by what? By distributing materials, printing the materials. Students can get learning even though they are at the home, and by providing or broadcasting radio and television and social media applications like Telegram. The main thing what we learned is when emergency situations may occur anytime, but we try to maintain or continue the system by creating the collaboration impact. You may heard from media, you may see what the collaboration seems like in this situation. From abroad, there is a strong collaboration with our country. Even our nations, we try to support the affected peoples and regions. This is of what we learn in the emergency situation. We can continue, we can proceed the system what we are going to. I think this is all what I have. Thank you for your attention. Now I think it's the time we can go to the feedback. Before that, we will have a group photo. Thank you.
But before that, we take a group picture downstairs, and then we visit us, and copy will be started on this floor, so we come back to this floor, and copy places. And for those who join us online, please be with us on screen while you are serving self-cooked anything, and we will be back in 30 minutes. We have a the presentation on the research policy and practice on the area of research, and we have 4 thematic areas: education planning, the school improvement, early childhood care and education, and educational management information. And we have Dr. Johannes Belti, Thomas Gabu, Ato Johannes, and Ato Sabsebe for these presentations. And now I will leave the floor for Dr. Johannes to present on the translating research into practice and policy and practice, successes and challenges, as well as key lessons learned under this the above things. And thank you very much, Dr. Johannes, for your availability, and I leave the floor for you. Yeah,
I can also use this one anyways.
In Taiwan? Okay, great.
Good morning, everyone, physically present and online.
Thank you for having me to have teachers' voice included in this important session. Just a few slides for you to present some of the points as I've read the concept note for this session. Next slide. So, as a matter of introduction, you can see Ethiopia had a comprehensive education and training policy adopted earlier, 1996. So far, we have 5 SCDP's education sector development programs implemented and the 6 is underway. Great achievements, especially in terms of access, has been made and reported that have been, of course, evaluated annually through the what we call the National Education Congress, and then over 28 million as a matter of participation of students, over 28 million. Okay, sorry for that. So very many number of students have come to school institutions. Over 700,000 members, teachers are available in our school system, and even more now. Over 37,000 school institutions. This is not a comparative one, because we have to put which is the beginning number, what was the base number of those numbers. But what I'm talking now is the school population and the student population in the education system of Ethiopia. You can see some of these numbers are more than population of some countries in the world, as you can see. Next, please. The challenge, obviously, quality, equity in its various forms, like gender, for example, urban versus rural. In terms of inputs, this is another very big challenge in the Ethiopian education system. Low standard schools, teacher quality to improve teaching and learning is a very long challenge in this country. Early child education was not properly addressed by the government until recently. Even now, formally we have included what we call O class or 0 class, only one. So this is not properly addressed still now, because early child education is not only for 1 year of education. And we all know during the previous times, this was left for the private institutions. Government was only limited to teacher preparation, curriculum preparation. And I don't think that has also gone as we want, actually. Next slide, please. Translation of research into policy and the practice in Ethiopia. I know the 1996 ETP, Education Training and Policy, is based on identified problems by them, like access, relevance, equity, and the quality. The policy was designed to address these problems. The studies on teacher education, such as TESO. TESO is Teacher Education System Overall, Basic Education System Overall. There are this deep study made. The weakness, because I've lived for long in this position, in this country. Though accessibility is the most achievement, full quality learning become popular agenda. Not only teachers organization agenda, it's becoming a popular agenda, and that ignited another very broad-based research. Next slide. So when it comes to research, actually government-sponsored research conducted by Ethiopian scholars was conducted, which mistakenly known as education roadmap. The deep research that was done by Ethiopian scholars, which has really involved very many number of scholars, and of course discussion on very large number of over 3 million or so have discussed on the outcome of the research to validate. And that's not roadmap, but it produced the so-called education roadmap. But actually, we don't have education roadmap now. What we have is a 10-year education plan. And that has resulted in very many other policy initiatives like education and training policies revised. So this is the biggest ever seen in Ethiopia to have conducted involving Ethiopian scholars. So the research involved field and document review, international experts like from the International Institute of Educational Planning have involved in consolidating the document to convert it into written forms, the so-called document. Cambridge University, I'm the witness as a teacher's representative who have involved in curriculum preparation as consultants. National Council, to which ETA, myself, was member, established 25 issues requesting the voice of decision makers. Revised education and training policy drafted, discussed, and finalized, yet not endorsed. That is long overdue. Next slide. So what is ETS role? Ethiopian education. Ethiopian teacher was established in 1948. Has over 600,000 members from pre-primary up to tertiary level. It is a member of Executive Board of Education International. By default, member of Education International Africa Region Committee. Also a member of the Continental Teacher Development Cluster Committee of the African Union Commission. So some of my voices also go to Africa and the globe. So later on in the panel discussion, I will reflect what education looks like in Africa as a whole. I'm also a member of the local education group, so-called Education Technical Working Group in Ethiopia. So carefully follows up and organizes dialogue sessions in developing education policies and other directives. Next slide, please. So participation in education planning, for example, in education sector development programs, annual education congress, etc. Standard supervision team. We have a standard supervision team established. So that will also help as a shadow report for the Ministry of Education and respective education bureaus. So we report what we saw in the schools happening. With Ministry of Experts, of course, we do. Regarding the general quality improvement programs, the 6 programs, to what extent are they being implemented at school level? This is one of the points of the supervision. Financial contribution for school feeding. You may surprise how teachers' organizations support the government. We contributed some money for the school feeding. Supporting internally displaced students due to the current conflict situation in Ethiopia. We've done that. Reconstruction of damaged schools due to the current conflict. We are mobilizing resources on our part. Project, for example, for Amhara and Afara school community on psychosocial support training submitted to UNESCO and outcome. As to my information, the project proposal is submitted to UNESCO headquarters. Next, please. So ETS research outputs and its influence on policy and the practice. Generally, it is argued the research are more on the shelf than implemented. This is also the obviously in discussions in the academia, even beginning from its name, this thesis is for the requirement or for the fulfillment. It doesn't go beyond that. Once a researcher or a student researcher does her or his research, then the student graduates, and it's a very small activities to draw those recommendations into practices. This is a general view of the research. I think this is not new to Ethiopia, it's everywhere. Relatively better implemented when sponsored by government. For example, the roadmap research is commissioned by the government. I know the involvement of the development partners in supporting the research in terms of finance, but it's better implemented. Even you don't take for granted the fact that the government has sponsored the research, that means that by default it is implemented. This is a big challenge in implementing research into practice. Best example is, as I said, the research done to inform the so-called education roadmap, or maybe education policy or curriculum or whatever. ETH organizes 2 educational conferences annually: a standalone quality education conference every June, and 2 days conference hosted by universities, upon which over 50 research papers presented for 2 days. Of course, Minister of Education is well aware, and sometimes financially also contribute to support financially. I have to recognize at this point in time. Proceedings published and shared with stakeholders, including Ministry of Education. This activity has been done for the last 8 years for quality education, and for the last 12 years for the conference we organized on the occasion of World Teachers Day. And the proceedings of each of these conferences are published and will be submitted. Have been submitted to the ministry, and I'm not sure which one of these have been captured. So, yeah, go on, please. Like, for example, we have research outputs like this. The first one is on student. It was a rapid assessment on student discipline. One of the recommendations was discipline, teacher conflict in between teachers and the students happened during examination time. And then that has alarmed us to continue to work another research. And that is how it is indicated. The topic is not may not be visible to you. It is all about academic cheating, because academic cheating was one that created conflict between the students and teachers. So to what extent is the cheating happening in the schools? Then that was the research outcome. But I don't think this recommendation has been captured by the examinations. Maybe they don't have a copy of that even. Go on, please. This is another research. For example, this one is focused on the challenge of girls in attending science subjects, because in Ethiopia during the last years the focus was 70%. 70% of the students graduated from high school are supposed to go to natural science, and 30% are supposed to go to the humanities. So in education, you cannot simply assign as quota. They need to have the background, they need to have well prepared, and students should be allowed to choose where to go. Then for that, what is it? Then that ignited us to conduct another research. Like there is shortage in teacher preparation, for example. So then we went to the other research, that is the challenge of primary school teacher preparation. Then the document, the researchers have come with very valuable recommendations. For example, this research was done when high school students complete their secondary schooling in grade 10. So this research has come with the recommendation that a student at primary level, student teachers should be hired after grade 12. Mind you, the so-called roadmap was not done this time. And it is fortunate that the roadmap research has also come up with the same proposal. So I think now no one is going to be recruited from grade 10. There are also another proposals, another recommendations, which this research has produced. Okay, can I continue now, or I think it was good to use my laptop? But the problem is this, I also no power. This is the problem with technologies. But also, I am so happy if I have power. So, sorry for the interruption. Good. Okay, so I will continue, please. Next then. This is another research outcome. This is focusing on violence against girls in secondary schools. Earlier, as I said, when we conduct a research on discipline of students, girls violence in school levels, both from the teachers and from the students, and from the peer, was one of the problem identified. And we were recommended to go deep research on this area. Then after a while, then we tried to conduct that research, violence against girls. We have had 2 scholars from Addis University, one man and one woman, who are all university teachers, and because the issue is about girls, about violence against girls, the involvement of women is very important in that regard. So by design, we made that one, we recruited them, then they have done that research. Then that research has come up with various recommendations. So one recommendation was violence is real in schools, but there has to be a strategy to mitigate violence, and they have come with another document, what we call school violence index. This index has 4 dimensions, and each one of the dimensions have their own sub-contents which are measurable. Then violence can be measured, and people are argued, how do you measure violence? It's measurable. For your information, I have shared this one continentally. I went to Senegal some years ago and shared at international level, and they really liked this document very much. And the international, the IDRC can also use this document for that matter. Next, please. We have international collaborations with UNESCO, ICBA, EI, ActionAid. EI is Education International, to which I'm a member of the board. These are some documents to generate financing from inside. Domestic resource mobilization. Someone has mentioned earlier in the presentation that financing, I think on childhood, as well as the Ministry of Education, Mr. Getachew also mentioned about the financing. It is very important. It's possible to generate finance from within inside. And millions of funding has been, of course, generated, as I know, but further, there is a lot of sources from which we can draw finance for education. Next, please. Of course, this one is a very old research for us. It's in 2006. We have done a lot of research since then, but of course, we collaborate with UNESCO. You can imagine, in 2006, it's a bit difficult to talk about quality in Ethiopia because the access was really on bringing children to school. Our argument is, how quality of education are those students coming to school taking? But that was our attempt. This one, you can see this document is very good document. It's a global framework that was done by Education International, our global organization, and UNESCO. It was launched on the 40th session of the UNESCO in 2019, and I was one of the panelists when this framework was launched. accept some copies. I've submitted these copies to the Ministry of Education, the former one, but we know there is very high turnover in our leadership, as you obviously know. I don't know where to recommend this now. I've still want some copy and can present for the minister, and hopefully the minister will stay for some time. Next, please. So the way forward is some kind of conclusion for this presentation. I'm experienced that officials do appear to open sessions, conferences, meetings. We always appreciate their presence, but they open and go back soon. They are busy with very many business. But we recommend stay for some time and hear from the horse's mouth. And if you don't hear from the horse's mouth, when you report it, we know in communication, you see, when the source begins reporting, the second one receives, not the exact report, then finally it will be totally distorted. The other one is key research outcomes need to be presented in the presence of Federal Ministry and Regional Education Bureaus officials, together with experts, so that both consider recommendations to improve policies and practices. Problem is, experts discuss on policies, research. The officials open and go back. I don't know how many of you, the experts, meet with the minister. There are so many hierarchies. Okay. So from our long experience, we recommend the officials and the experts sit together, hear research reports, and take their own notes, possibly a copy of the research, include it in their practices. So when we say policies, we may not change policies every time. Policies should stay for some time, 15 years, 20 years, and so on. But practice should be changed, informed, based on evidence. That's one point. The other point is development partners allocate specified research funds for teacher organizations or civil societies to conduct research and organize dialogue sessions. I like this session very much because this is a point where we voice out about the problem. For that, we need support because finance is scarce and resources everywhere. We have to share these resources. And sometimes resources should be channeled to the proper point. ETA needs to audit which recommendations out of the presentations or research outcomes were captured to improve policies and practices. I've mentioned earlier that we have conducted research on the challenges on teacher preparation, curricular change, blah, blah. That was really captured in the roadmap. This is really, we are thankful to the Ministry of Education in this regard. But there are a lot of research we have been doing, but we are not sure which one of those recommendations were captured. So for this purpose, we need to strengthen our research, training, and education section of our own. We have that department in ETA. So that is one important recommendation. So we need to audit. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Joanna. And if you have questions or comments, please keep it, and we will have a session for question and answer toward the end while all the presenters present their. And now I think Dr. Johannes has joined us. Johannes, good morning. Johannes Wagaso. Hello?
Good morning. Can you hear me? Yes, I'm hearing you.
Good morning, Johannes, and thank you for joining us online. And the floor is yours. Since you are covering 2 sessions, I will give you a maximum of 20 minutes to present. And thank you.
Thank you so much. Just to make sure that whether I'm connecting with you or not, can you hear me?
Is he online?
Yes, can you hear me?
Give us some more few minutes to adjust the microphone here.
Okay.
Hello, Johannes, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Johannes.
Shall I continue? Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm here. My name is Johannes Wagaso. I'm working in the ministry as the Director General for School Improvement. I'm here in this platform to present 2 issues. Sorry, there are some echo. A ver.
We can't see your presentation, so
Sorry, I couldn't able to hear you, ears.
Sorry. ይቅርታ ዮሐንስ አሁንስ ይሰማል?
Yeah, now it's fine.
እሺ አንተ ፕሮጀክት ማድረጉን ብትተው እዚህ ስለማይታይ አንተ ፕሮጀክት ስታደርገው let us share your presentation, so you stop projecting your presentation so that we can project it from here, so it will be visible for our audiences here.
Okay. ያስኬዳል?
አዎ አነሳው አንተ? ኦኬ see ነው ኦኬ እሱን ላይ please bear with us, Johannes. We have technical difficulties here. What happened to this? Hello? Johannes, can you hear us?
Sure.
Hello?
Sure. Yes, yeah.
Hello?
Yes, እየሰማችሁ ነው.
Can you hear us, Johannes?
Please, yeah.
It's me. Still here. Okay. Thank you for your patience, Johannes. And for now, we solved the problem, and I hope it will remain like this. And now you can even project your presentation and stop presenting so that you can present. Stop presenting. Johannes, the floor is yours, and you can project your presentation also. Thank you very much.
Okay. Shall I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. I'm here to present two issues. One is about learning crisis, which was coming because of COVID-19 pandemic. And I will explain the implication of this COVID-19 pandemic aggravated learning crisis for school improvement program. It's already known that the government of Ethiopia in the last 2 decades established a series of educational programs, reforms, initiatives. And one of the aforementioned initiative and the government serious program is education sector development program.
Sorry, can you near the mic, please? We can hear, your voice is a bit low, so please near to the mic.
ኢየሩስ የኔ ድምጽ ካልተሰማችሁማ ይሄ የጉድ ነው።
ገርሞኛል። እኔ ራሴ ዛሬ አንተ ድምጽ አለመሰማት
እንዴት ነው ብዬ ልጠራጠር ነው። እዛ አካባቢ ያሉ ሰዎች ትልልቅ ሰዎች ናቸው ወይ እንደጌታቸው? ኤኒዌይስ አሁን እንዴት ነው?
አሁን አሪፍ ነው። እንደዚሁ ቀጥል። እሺ።
Okay, great. So in the last 2 decades, the government implemented a series of education development program. Currently, we are at the 6th education sector development program. With those educational programs, different reform and educational initiative has been in place. And because of that, tremendous achievement has been recorded, even in terms of creating educational opportunity for all. As the education sector annual abstract revealed that in the last year, for instance, more than 50,000 pre-primary, primary, and secondary schools were exist and surveyed for 20 million Ethiopian children. And this proved that when you look in terms of gross enrollment rate, from KG to secondary education, a wonderful achievement has been recorded. For instance, in pre-primary, it is nearly 50%, and for primary gross enrollment rate, it's around 130%. Even when we look in terms of secondary education, it is 55%. That is a great achievement which was made by the government. The government commitment, by the way, manifested not only simply expanding the number of schools, but also the commitment manifested by allocating a huge amount of budget. As the data from the Ministry of Finance revealed that around 23-24% of the public expenditure directly goes to the education sector. That is manifested by, that is also one of the government commitments manifested in our education system. However, when we look in terms of learning, the situation is not as good as the measures we took to expand and to create access. Because the learning outcome, for instance, for grade 4, when we look in terms of learning outcome, rather than improving, our education systems deteriorate to some percentage decrease exists in our education system. For instance, in 2012, it's 3.1% and it's 85% of grade 4 and grade 8 students were found at basic and below basic level. And after a decade, even after 10 years, this number rise up to 92%, 92.3%, and 89.6%, which is student at basic and below basic level for grade 4. Similar data exists for grade 8. Our education system is characterized not only with the low learning outcome or low quality, but also dropout rate. When we look in terms of efficiency, dropout rate is a serious problem for our education system. The figure reveals that even when we look for grade 1, around 25% of students who join to grade 1 will drop before joining to grade 2. And this can be a potential contributor for learning poverty. That means that a significant number of children were left from schools without acquiring the necessary knowledge and the skill. With this all turbulence, this COVID-19 aggravated learning crisis also induced a series of challenges and come up with more new encounters in terms of learning losses. Because globally, this COVID-19 has forced more than 1.53 billion learners, which is around 87.6% of the world total enrolled learners out of schools for a couple of months. And when we look even in Ethiopia, this COVID-19 induced the challenge, brought a serious problem and become a cause to drop more than 27 million children from schools, even for more than 7 months. The other thing, this pandemic response school closure was found to contribute not only to dismantle children from schools, but also it contributes for long-term effect. That means the children become out of school, and a serious number of children were now out of school. And this might create some sort of exposure to the risk. Like, for example, children will be engaged on child labor, forced marriage, child trafficking, and exploitation were among us the basic characterization during the COVID-19 induced school closure period. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Education, of course, in order to alleviate those all challenges, Ministry of Education come up with 3 innovative educational modalities. One is through inducing technology, or so come up with technology providing education opportunity for some number of children, especially for children who are in urban areas, received some sort of education during school closure. And the other thing the ministry come up, the other strategy the ministry come up is by digitalizing all learning contents, introducing not only online but also by using TV and the radio program, and the said strategy were distributing printed materials for those who couldn't able to get even who is not able to get even the TV and the radio program. They received some sort of printed materials just to resume schooling. However, the effort the ministry providing to resuming education through technology like mass media, TV, radio didn't bear fruit due to lack of equitable access and affordability to technology and the power, especially in the rural part of the country. So, recognizing the impact of all these challenges and the negative effect of the pandemic on the learning loss, this is also the potential contributor to reduce the human capital development of the nation. The government started to rethink reopening while we are still in the COVID-19 through developing some sort of protective measures, developing different protocols to alleviate those old problems, because the continuing school closure for long period of time have a strong potential for long-lasting effect on our children. So in order to reduce those all challenges, schools were reopened and designed a series of public mobilization strategy. By the way, last year, because of this all mobilization, more than 77,000 classrooms were built by through mobilizing our community, and around 1,412 new schools were constructed and maintained. And because of in order to contain the spread of the virus, the wash facility were mandatory. So around 25,320 schools were equipped with the necessary wash facilities, and some sort of desks, student desk, face masks were distributed because long period of school closure have long-lasting effect. After all preparation in the national back to school campaign, however, because these all efforts are induced to bring those 20 million children to school. However, whatever the effort we exert, when you look in terms of even access, 80% of schools, only 80% of schools were reopened, and only 17 million children were back to school and resumed their learning. So this implies that still, while we are reopening our schools, the effect of COVID-19 manifested in this access. On the other side, by the way, we were trying to forecast the model with the lower end by giving lower and upper confidence bound, and this enrollment trend showed that we reopened our schools in October 2020. However, when we project till January last year, January 2021, we were estimating that around 32 million children will come back to school. However, when we look at the actual achievement, it is nearly 80% students were back. So still, COVID-19 aggravated not only learning crisis, but also even when we look enrollment, it has its own impact. The other thing, of course, this COVID-19 induced school closure has denied students not only to come to school, but also this COVID-19 induced school closure has denied students the opportunity to gain new knowledge in the skill, and also made them to forget what they had already learned, because school closure for 7 months have effect not only children to be dropped out, but also children one, they lose the opportunity to gain new additional knowledge and the skill. And the other thing, though they have learned some knowledge and the skill, the possibility of forgetting those knowledge and the skill is very high. So this situation aggravated a learning crisis. Though our learning poverty, as you can see, let me show you this picture first. I'm not quite sure that whether you saw this figure or not. ይታያችኋል ይሄ ነገር አይታይም አይደል?
በደንብ አይታይም።
Let me zoom out. Let me zoom out, okay? Just to summarize the effect of this COVID-19 aggravated learning crisis, I think this figure might give some tip for all of us. For the sake of giving opportunity for some of you, I think, okay. አይታይም አይደል? አሁንም ዙም አውት እያደረኩኝ ነበር። I'm trying to zoom out it, but I'm not quite sure that whether you are watching my screen or not.
Not yet. We couldn't see it. Yes, we can. ይታያል።
Okay.
Would you make it a bit larger?
I'm just trying, okay. Okay, what about now?
Yes, it's good.
Great. As you can see from this, students who were grade 4 in 2000 scored, the composite score for their learning outcome were 48%. This number, after 4 years, this number still remained 48. That means the composite score for grade 4 students were 48%. By the way, 48 means that it is not the pass mark. The pass mark is 50 and above. But all students, when we look, the average, it is 48. That means that it's below the policy mark point. And when after 8 years, in 2008, this number reduced to 41. And after 20 years, after 2 decades, this 48% come to 38%. This is, by the way, the figure, this number is, this is a report from the National Learning and Examination Agency, and it is 38%. Then, after taking this all long journey, we try to forecast the model. So, where we will be after 4 years, when we just working through those all initiative strategies, measures. For example, we have implemented school improvement program in those years. We have implemented teacher development program with different initiative in the budget. We have implemented a curriculum initiative. We have implemented a leadership initiative. We have implemented information communication technology. With this all initiative, the learning outcome reached to 38%. And when we forecast after 4 years, the model give us that with the maximum effort, this number will have a possibility to rise to 42%. But when we go through, what we were doing, this number reduced to 32%. This is alarming point for us. And finally, this number will give us some sort of policy unless we exert a massive effort, the possibility of regaining or the possibility of reducing the adverse effect of COVID-19 as well as the backlog might not be as such easy. So to address this all and to minimize the adverse effect of COVID-19, a systemic and the context-specific strategies have to be designed and implemented. Though we have also, because as you know that before 4 years, the roadmap come up with different initiatives. Even if those initiatives expected to be or supposed to be implemented in our education system, however, it requires to rethink even our education system more with the systematic and the context-specific manner. And the Minister of Education should consider some sort of policy measure to give children the second chance, or it requires to fill the gap between students who are expected to have the minimum learning competency as well as with the curriculum standard. What I mean is that, for example, at grade 4, the students who were proficiently able to read and write it is below 20%. So this implies that 80% of students expected to read and write with that grade level. However, they couldn't. Even a significant number of children were not able to read and write. So it requires some sort of, providing a new approach by inducing accelerated learning program. And it requires, to establish and strengthening a school feeding program, especially for those needy children, and conduct large-scale back-to-school campaign, not only to bring children to school, but also to sensitize the parents, to improve the participation of the parent in the education system. So this all implies in our school improvement program, because the school improvement program is focused on 4 issues. 1, to improve teaching and learning. The other one, enhancing the capacity of school leadership. And the third one is to create a strong linkage with the community, school community relationship. And the fourth one is creating conducive school environment. Unless we invest too much on those 4 basic pillars, the possibility of addressing the challenge and minimizing the adverse effect of COVID-19 may not be as such easy. So it requires to work out more and more to alleviate those old challenges. I think I took too much time. Sorry. This is the presentation I'm just prepared to show for you COVID-19 aggravated learning crisis in Ethiopia. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Johannes. In fact, you keep your time, and thank you very much for that. And please stay with us, because towards the end there might be questions for you and comments as well. So you will be part of the panelists. So thank you for joining us, and please be with us also. And now I invite Thomas Gamo, the Planning and Resource Mobilization Team Leader from the Ministry, for your presentation.
ኦኬ እንትና እዚህ እኮ አይደለም እዛ ላይ የምጠይቀው የፕሮጀክተሩ እኮ
It's just we can't cancel it. It's frozen there. No, we don't go there.
It is with the projector. Yes. So can you proceed?
Stop presenting.
So, okay.
ይሄኛውን አቆመው ይሄኛው ስለከፈትከው ነው ይሄኛው እሷ ፕሬዘንት እያደረገች ስለሆነ
Okay. I stopped. Yes. Okay.
Let's just go into presentation mode quickly. No, go into your actual PowerPoint. Then go into
That's responding.
Where is it?
This one.
I had to put some of this in the second. The one, eh?
Yes, the one, yes.
That is not responding. Just enter. End task and start. Go to the just go to the task manager. Sorry, task manager. Let's end some tasks here. Just remove it. Which one do you want to end? Remove your end. Just remove the programs that are not relevant for now. Just end some end. Remove those that are not relevant. Yes, just so because it's what is the presentation?
The presentation is here. This one.
Open it. You have too many programs. So try enable Alt tab. Put Alt tab. Where were you zoom? Where's the zoom? Wait. On this side. We have too many things. I don't even know where it's the zoom. Is it commercial to find out in the process? This is zoom? No. Okay. Okay, so now let's see. Which is the presentation? Which one is which one are you? Where is the presentation? Show all? This one. I think it was this one. Yeah. That's two parts. Yeah, no. I know it's this one. Back.
That's okay. That's all right.
Okay, thank you very much for the organizer and having the chance to present
some of the planned achievements, challenges, and the new initiatives in the Ethiopian education system. Background information on the education and training. I hope modern education has been started more than a century ago, and so it has been long time. There is a positive impact on the lives of the people and the national development. So the ultimate objective of education is to change the lives of the nation and the country. However, a long time has been started, and a lot of resources has been invested, but the development of the nation is still in challenge. And the ambition, even the ambition and initiation of the students in the graduate is not for the sake of creating their own job, developing rather to be employed by the government. So this is another overlooked insight. In addition to this, vocational and training also started in the 50s and 60s, but it is a practice, especially in the lower level countries and the middle level countries. This part is very important, and because the economy is highly demanding the teacher graduates. However, the expansion and the quality is not in the proper way. And regarding to this, the education reform is not now started. Even the German regime, very impressive reforms had been studied, the earliest study. However, the failure of the German regime, also the education system went in the same way. After that, in 1994, Ethiopian training policy aspires to achieve 5 institutional outcomes. What it solves is access, quality, relevance, equity, and efficiency. These are the core areas of our education system. So this system was before, and the assessment of the 1994 education and training policy, there was a very critical challenge in access, very limited access. Particularly, most of them are in the rural and in the urban setting. The quality of education was very deteriorated. The relevance of the curriculum, the relevance of the teaching learning process, the relevance towards the world of work was very poor. And the other issue, still a significant challenge, the issue of equity. Equity in the rural and urban, equity in the male and the female, equity with disability people. These are the challenges. The other educational challenge was the issue of efficiency. Dropout, repetition, completion, survival rate was very critical challenge. So to reverse these issues, the 1994 the training policy had been launched. With this character, teachers also purely for their grade of teaching methods. Even the methodology itself, the teachers they were assigned to teach in a specific grade level were not well equipped, theoretically and practically. Some of them may be theoretically equipped, but they are not practically equipped. This was a very practical challenge our supervision. So if this is so, what is really our challenge, the current achievements in the Ethiopian education system? Some of the challenges is, one is the instrumentality of developing the training policy, developing of successive consecutive plans. I hope that was presented in the previous presenter. 5 CDPs had been implemented with their limitation. Now we are implementing the 6th education sector plan. In addition to this, what is really we are achieving in the education sector, almost the issue of access and coverage in primary education is a very significant improvement. In other cases, secondary school, universities, the enrollment rate is an increasing rate, but still it demands huge resources and lag behind in the middle income country, even some African countries. In secondary school, it was expected to be at least 64% now. Now we are around 48%. So we need to work on that. And the other one is the gender and regional gap is improving trend, but still there is a critical challenge, particularly in the emerging region in Afar and Somali, almost all behind that needs special intervention. The progress is very encouraging. The other achievement is just partnership. The issue of partnership and the mobilizing of international resources, particularly the GQP. We have 3 GQPs, GQP1, GQP2, now implementing the GQP, the General Education Quality Improvement Program for equity, because still the issue of equity is under question mark. So this huge multi-trust fund project will address the issue of equity in addition to ensuring the quality, the internal efficiency, and with its specific area of the project. In addition to this, the government is allocating 4.3 to 4.7% from the GDP, as well as around 23 to 27% from the annual expenditure. It depends on from one year to the other year. For example, when the universities were constructed, the annual expenditure was 27%. This year, from the annual expenditure of the government, 24% of the annual expenditure goes to the education sector, and from the GDP, 4.3%. This is a great commitment of the government of Ethiopia to improve the quality of education, to address access, equity, and quality of education. On the other case, the capacity of teachers and educational managers are significantly increase their capacity, but we need to work on that. We need to work on that, and even it is identified in order to transform teaching as a profession of choice to reverse the existing challenges in the quality and the commitment of educational leaders and teachers. Having said this, what are really the challenges? The challenges are, in one case, is the issue of equity. Equity is manifested in gender, equity is manifested in the regional disparity, in the urban rural setting, and in the special education. So if we are addressing the issue of equity, we have to narrow the gender gap. We have to narrow the regional disparity and the urban and rural disparity, as well as focus on special education. Special education is still they are very much behind. Related to the equality, when we are talking about equality, the management of teaching and teaching force, not only the teacher's capacity, but also managing of teachers in the teaching force is another critical challenge. If we know not only the capacity, the commitment of the teachers, the time on task, the research conducted on the time on task, only 54 or 53% of the teachers are actually teaching in the classroom. So the rest, 46% are not in the classroom, in one case or in another case. So managing the teaching force is another challenge. In the other case, the engagement of and support system of our students. How really we support our students is another challenge. The interaction between the classroom and the assessment related. How we really assess our students is another challenge. And the curriculum issue. The relevance of the curriculum is another related challenge. In addition to this, the production and use of data, not only producing of the quality relevant data, but using the data at our hand is also another challenge in our education system. And digital literacy. Now, the world is demanding technology, so digital literacy in the education system still needs special attention. Now it is the challenge and the problem of the education system. And the national unity in diversity. We know, we see how our country is facing now, the conflict everywhere. And our education system may contribute not only the attributing factor, but it might be the contributing factor for our current existing conflict and challenge. So the education system has to contribute to unify the Ethiopian nation and the nationality, respecting with diversity. The other one is what is exists really occur, the natural and man-made disasters affect learning. It is already demonstrated by Joanna's learning crisis. So if so, this what is really the initiative to reverse this? So to reverse this, we have around 13 major departures or shifts. The first one is develop value-driven and competent Ethiopians. And the second one related to the relevance, to change the relevance of our education system. The first one is the curriculum. How is the curriculum relevant to the world so far? How is the curriculum relevant to the age of the grade level of the students is also the focus area which will be addressed in the 10-year and 5-year plan. The expanding and strengthening of science and technology is another departure, and the outcome-based debate. So debate is currently moved to another sector. I hope it's part of our education system. We are also expecting grade 11 and grade 12 to be vocationalized. Therefore, we need to focus on outcome-based debate system. The other shift or departure is expanding and strengthening of internationalization of higher education. We are in the global world, so we need to be part of the globe. The other thematic area that we will address is the issue of equity. So ensure need-based education and training for inclusion and equity. And also, we have to have an alternative pathway for universal basic education and lifelong learning. We should not go in a unidirection. We need to think of a variety and diversified way of learning teaching method to access those who are behind and inaccessible and far-reaching Ethiopian citizens. The other part is transform teaching into a professional choice by enhancing the teaching competency and the motivation, what Dr. Johannes was demonstrated in different research outputs. And the other part to improve the quality of education is the variation of ICT, as well as transforming of the schools and higher learning and training institutions, as well as ensure the quality assurance system which fulfills accountability and being part of an independent system to ensure the quality. And the governance system also be strengthened and new paradigm shift by strengthening the system of governance, capacity, accountability, and more efficient delivery of higher education. Also, leveraging and using of ICT in the governance system is one of the facilitation mechanisms to improve our governance, because we are under e-governance system. So it is already part and area of thematic. The other and the final part is transform the financial and resource mobilization system. We are not be dependent on foreign multilateral funders. We have to use our domestic resource. There are many intangible assets and resources, so we need to focus and map out our resources to improve our education system. So having said this, to materialize this major shift, and this major shift is taken from the roadmap, and the roadmap is translated into 10-year strategy plan, translated into 5-year strategy plan, and translated into annual operational plan. From this, which is explained by Dr. the 7 priority areas already demonstrated by Dr. So I leave that one, and the details are very many. I can't go which is the detail. So what really the lesson learned? So we need to make our education system a resilience and should observe to the natural and man-made disaster. Because not only in Ethiopia, in the world also we have our education system is not resilient, so we need to change. Enhance the existing achievement, what is so far regarded and explained by different previous presenters, and harnessing of the capacity of ICT, implement new initiatives to reverse the existing challenge and ensure SDG and CISA 1625 target, as well as the 2063 African commitment. Lastly, thank you very much. And thinking well is wise, planning well is wiser, but being well is to meet the organizational goal, the wisest and the best of all. As planning, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gilmo, and now I call Mr. Sasubin for your presentation.
I'm going to present you about Aries.
Stop la maratona.
Hello, Gabriel. Gabriel share your guys. I think Gabriel is here.
I'm here.
Gabriel. Gabriel, if you are sharing the screen, please stop.
Oh, I'm not sharing.
Gabriel share your again, no?
شوف هندسة
ማግኘት አልቻልኩም።
screen አሁን
ፒክቸሮቹ ማግኘት አልቻልኩም።
But if someone
እንደሳ ያንተ ስክሪን ነው ሼር የተደረገው።
million can proceed, so in the meantime we adjust the presentation.
I don't think that Gabriel is sharing Million's presentation.
Can't we finish it here? No?
We can't, yes. Either Henok or
Who is the other host?
Henok.
እንደሳ ይሰማል?
Because we're not hearing anyone.
እንደሳ
Hello, Henok. Henok?
Hello, Yerus. አይሰማም?
Yeah, is that possible to stop sharing from your side, Henok? If you are.
ሁንዴሳ ነው እንትን እያደረገ ያለው።
Yeah, but the button here is.
በተኖቹን አሳይኝ ሄኖክ እዚህ።
ቆይ እሺ ልሞክረው።
Maybe you leave the Zoom and join again.
No. I didn't. Yes.
Now we can project. Thank you. Now it's just.
Things now.
So, I'm presenting you about AB's Education Management Information System. My presentation will have the following outlines. For some of you who are new for AMS, I thought that I have to explain what AMS is. Those activities and the responsibilities. So, AMS as a system as well as an entity, I will go and explain about AMS. Then the next part will be the existing practice. What are those activities that we carry out in AMS for the last year and so on. So, by presenting those activities, I will take you to the outputs or the results of these practices, and then rather than lesson, I prefer to demonstrate those challenges as a lesson from the practice and the results. After that, I will stratify the challenges based on the priorities that we are going to plan and implement. And in these priorities, I will try to explain those important points associated with the priorities. Finally, I will give you a recent development and plan project in EMS system. As I said, to bring everybody on the same page, AMS or AMS is an acronym that stands for Education Management Information System. So you can notice that AMS is a system. So as a system, it is established to organize information based on a systematic way for the management of educational development. Again, AMS can be seen as an entity or as a department in the ministry. And in the ministry, this department is established as an information system center to collect, process, analyze, publish, distribute, render information service for users of educational information. So you can see that as a department, we have these major tasks that we expect to perform in order to generate educational performance information. Less or anything. So our responsibility is, or one of the major responsibility of our department is to promote. We have to promote and use information within the Ministry of Education for policy planning, and implementation, decision-making, monitoring, and evaluation of educational system. As an example, we can take those information when the roadmap was studied. Almost 70% of the information comes from AMS. This is just to give you a highlight about AMS. Our next slide will talk about the existing practice, what we done in the EMS department. In the EMS department, we have a practice to administrate a school service that has the activity of designing instruments, testing instruments, redesign, distribute, and collect data. So after collecting the data, we will capture it into in database, and from the database we organize and process. We compile different types of data, and we also take a cleaning process of data depending on the situation. After that, we process the data for analysis. After the analysis, we have to give an interpretation, because processed data should have an interpretation to be an information. So we generate finally educational performance information, and this information is published and distributed or disseminated to the users in different platforms. Currently, we use our ministry website for dissemination, and we also provide with different data sharing systems. And another major activity that we do in the AMIS, in the ministry, is it's responsible to manage all the activities that the AMIS from the ministry up to the school will carry out. And we also practice monitoring and evaluation of AMIS activities, how regions are implementing these AMIS activities. The other task that we practice is we provide training of personnel in AMIS at all levels. The best approach that we implement from our experiences, we organize training of trainers. We train trainers from the region, and the regions in turn train the province. While we, in our structure, they train their zonal AMIS experts, and so this is a mechanism of approach that we follow when we train persons in AMIS in all areas. The other thing is that we can ask you is we try to approach one method to gather data related to EIE, education in emergency. So with education cannot wait material resilience program, they provide us support of 280 tablets. So using these 280 tablets, in 3 regions, we started data collection using an open data kit that is called ODK. So we are practicing this new approach for data collection related to education in emergency. So by doing these activities, the results that we obtain looks like this. The first one is we able to produce educational statistical annual abstract, and this annual abstract produced or released on October 2021 provide performance data and statistics measuring Ethiopian progress against educational priorities set out in the sector development plan. From the sidebar chart, you can see that we, as an AMIS, we able to measure 55 indicators, key performance indicators, out of 94 key performance indicators in the sector plan. And this publication report on all levels of general education, PrePrimary to CE. Recently, we are planning to add higher education since they are newly emerged to the general education. And this publication also have an intention to provide planners, policymakers,
and administrators with the data evidence to inform strategical decision making. Besides that, one of our achievements is we able to capture information from refugee centers. In our abstract, you can find a section that tells about how students are performing in the refugee, especially those basic indicators. From our study from our school surveys, we have found that Ethiopia is centering about 795,100 refugees from different countries, and majority of the refugees comes from South Sudan, Somalia, and Sudan, of which 52% of the refugee population is under school age population, which can be defined as by age of 3 to 18. So the chart that I try to display here show you how the enrollment looks like from ECC, primary, middle, and that of secondary. These are the major achievements that we obtain by doing those practices in this existing NEC. So by doing that, we have learned, we have faced the following major challenges. One of the big challenges that we face doing this is that lack of any policy framework. We don't have any policy framework, and this implies that we don't have any accountability in the system. We don't have time schedule for reporting. As a result, it depends on the regions to submit their data, and if they permit, they cooperate, they give us their data. If not, there is no anything that we can raise to force them to report on time. Other one is the other challenge is our X data has a quality issue, and this quality problem mostly related to timeliness, accuracy of data, accessibility of MS data from school out to memory. The other one is we approach our data collection on paper-based. So you can think of the number of schools in Ethiopia, which are more than 41,000. So gathering all this information from each school using paper will take time. So we have a challenge of ICT transformation. So AMIS data capturing the tool improvement is another challenge that we face. The other major challenge is capacity weakness in both production and the use of AMIS data. As Thomas Go mentioned that we have plenty of data, but the production of information from this data is weak. As a result, if we have the capacity to carry out those analysis using the existing data, we can generate a better informative information from the data collected. The other one is development partner communities with interest and actively supporting AMIS, but currently occurring in the absence of current plan. So we try to coordinate different partners, but mostly they have their own interest due to that reason. We didn't get success. So these challenges and other challenges are classified into three priority areas. One is a better tool for education information management. The second one is better data communication and visualization tools. The third one is integration of data across different systems to produce holistic school level information system. So why these three stratas are important? You can see the first one, priority on better tool for education information system. As I mentioned in the challenge statement, one of the critical problems in the AMIS system is associated with the tools that we use to capture information at the regions. We use Statilook, which was developed more than before 6 years ago or 20 years ago. The demand now increased, and the back end of Statilook is access. So to improve access to increase our barriers, access has its own limitation. So due to that, it becomes hard in the AMIS system. So we need to have a better tool for the information management. The other drawback of Statilook is it has a security issue. There's no as such a strong security associated with the Statilook. As a result, we need to improve this system. And currently, we have a transformation plan. If, I think everyone heard about details. And in this details, to improve the AMI system, digitalization of the current data collection using a tablet has been initiated. The second one is a better tool for education information management. Currently, the data communication works in one way, from school up to the regions, from the regions to the ministry. No feedback goes back to the lower level. So this has an impact on the data quality, as well as we couldn't able to correct data immediately, since there is no such a feedback mechanism. This also can be solved by when the details project produce educational dashboard, and the educational dashboard is currently being in development. The third one is integration of data across different systems to produce holistic school level information. In the ministry, there are different directorates that gathers school level data, but all these directorates are working independently. So we are thinking of a platform that can integrate and information that comes from different directories. For this, as an MES, we took the initiative and we developed a school unique ID, and we shared with those directorates. But still the challenge is there is no system that enables us to integrate at the same place. So this is still the challenge, missing the platform for integration. Lastly, I will highlight you the recent development in the plan project. As I mentioned in the challenge, one of the challenges in the AMIS is there is no policy framework. Recently, we were establishing federal and regional AIDS policy and management committee, but due to some bureaucracy, this has been pending. And if this committee is established, if this policy is developed, the roles and responsibilities of each experts and each responsible body will be clearly addressed there, and we can ask according to this policy frame. The other one is we are trying to address data quality problem with the current AMIS. With all its limitation, we are working on strategic tool, and we are trying to address those data quality problems. At school levels, we try to roll out SMS, School Management Information System. One of our data quality issue arises from the school, because if the schools have no mechanism to organize their data in some manner, the reports they will send is not as such fulfill the quality measures of the data. So by developing SMS with UNICEF, we are trying to roll out to primary schools and secondary schools. The other one, as much as possible, we are conducting capacity building trainings for regions. And the other one is enrichment of enrichment of elements by harmonization with other data sources or medication being implemented. Currently, we are working with inspection, especially. The last one is the transformation program is currently being practiced in the ministry. This is all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Miguel, and it's very challenging to be the last presenter, especially when the time is against you, and thank you for coloring here. So now we are behind time, almost 30 minutes behind, so it will be unfair for the next session if we take more than this hour. So let us keep our questions and comments. Since we are going to address more of the similar issue on the panel, we can reflect on those questions and comments after the panel discussion. And over to you, Mr. Salim. And apologies once again for the delay. Yes, the panelists can remain there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yamusa, for the great moderation. And thank you, dear presenters, for the informative presentation you have made, sharing us information about achievements and challenges of different sectors of the Ministry of Education. And hopefully those presentations will be shared to participants, but also to all countries, because it is a good basis for experience sharing. We're going to start the panel session with those who have just presented. Some of them are here in person, whereas one of them, Mr. Joanna, is participating online. For practical arrangements, I am requesting for everybody to keep their questions and comments for action, and I will call upon participants from the room to make their solution or ask their questions. Whereas those participating online will share their comments and questions in the chat, and our colleagues, Kundesa, Victoria, and the others will make up the favor or the honor to forward us those questions and comments. Thank you very much. So now, coming back to the panel session, I have two questions that I would like to ask to the panelists. while requesting them to be very concise and precise, because as you said, we are behind time, so the more precise you are, the better. The first question I would like to ask you is, how can the KIX Hubs platform and knowledge and innovation exchange agenda accelerate progress in Ethiopia's national education system? This is the first question. I give you the floor. I don't know who would like to start with that question. And then after that, I will proceed to the second question. Maybe Dr. Joanna, you will start.
Yeah, I make it. Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. The KIX, the Knowledge and Innovation Exchange platform, is very important. I really come to understand its importance today than earlier, because this platform is very important, because it's all about sharing knowledge and sharing experience. So what's happening in different countries, how each countries make use of knowledge and research or evidence to improve practices is really the key challenge in the education sector across the globe, because evidence-informed work always improves practices. So I find it is very important and very key, and hope we make use of it in the future to improve our practices.
Thank you very much. I think you can give the floor to, there's an echo, to Amelia. Yes, go ahead, please.
I think KIX help first, even the name Knowledge and Innovation Exchange. It initiates some thoughts in our mind. So when we first heard about KIX, we try to see ourselves, and we try to grasp different knowledge from different countries. For instance, currently we are seeing the experience of Afghanistan. In the Afghanistan AMS system, their composition, we found that it was a great composition, and we took that experience and we are working with them. So this is one of the advantages that we have from the name itself. We said that we are working with the KIX program in order to improve these 3 priority areas. But due to the pandemic, we actually lose our connections. I think this will give us as a expenditure an opportunity to strengthen our communication and improve the aims, strengthening the aims in our country.
Thank you very much to William. Would you like to say your
Okay, thank you very much. So the experience, the time is knowledge explosion. So sharing of the experience, particularly the current innovation, the way we are planning today and the future will not work what we did in the previous time. So we need to gain the experience of other countries' best experience. Some countries are best experienced in one thematic area than the other. So it is very important to gain the experience of countries' performance where they are performing best. Therefore, this is the best platform to share knowledge and to improve our education system using an innovative way. Otherwise, we are not doing in the same business what we did before, couldn't improve what we are planning, and want to transform the major shifts in our education system. So the platform is very important to improve our education system. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Namu. Now I turn to Dr. Johannes Wogaso, who is joining online. Dr. Johannes, are you with us?
Yes. 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 Can you hear me?
Yes, of course. We can hear you and see you.
Great. First, I would like to give my deepest appreciation for the organizer who gave this opportunity for me. Really, it is a good opportunity even for me to learn more from this platform. Then even the KIX have